Hi, welcome to BAL, Building Athletic Lifestyles. I'm Neil. This is the last part of the Fundamentals series. If you missed any of the previous parts, there is a link down below to the playlist where you can find those previous videos. So today we're going to be talking about sleep. Interestingly, in today's culture, this is something that gets thrown by the wayside a lot. It's all about the hustle and the grind now. You've got people like Elon Musk getting up at 4 a.m. every day because it gives him more hours to work. Now, that's great, sure, for the productivity side, but talking about it from a health and a performance standpoint, it does have a slightly different story as well. So when we talk about sleep itself, typically we think about the number of hours we sleep. What I want to try and encourage you to do is think about sleep in cycles. Now, these cycles will be different lengths for different people. It is largely individual, but the rough estimate is around about the 90-minute mark. So these cycles, what happens is you go through different periods of brain activity throughout these stages of your sleep cycle within that 90 minutes. So within these sleep cycles themselves, these 90-minute cycles, you can break them down into multiple different parts. So things like rapid eye movement, non-rapid eye movement, and we can get quite technical with this sort of thing, but that's a little above my paycheck, and it's also a little unnecessary in terms of the understanding the application for it. So if we're working off that approximate 90-minute sleep cycle, give or take a little, it'll take a little bit of finding out for yourself to figure out exactly where that is. So we've got these 90-minute cycles. Now we want to be hitting these deep sleep cycles within there, which is where we do most of our repair and recovery throughout there. That, in terms of if we're relating this to training, that's when you're going to get the most of your benefit from your sleep itself. So a recommendation you often see get thrown around is the 7.5 or 8 hours. That's 5 of those sleep cycles that go through. There's actually a really good infographic that Precision Nutrition did, which I'll throw up here, which actually has a good illustration of how it will change over time, because typically what you'll see is that as people age, they tend to go to bed earlier and wake up earlier, but they also tend to require slightly less duration of sleep in total. Now, something that's really important is it's not just about the quantity of your sleep. The quality is just as, if not more important than the actual quantity itself. So there's a number of different factors that tie into this. Something that I want to preface this with is just understanding something called the circadian rhythm. So this is essentially your biological clock that's built around largely the rising and the setting of the sun from, as we've adapted over the years, we've started to introduce artificial light that can start to change that circadian rhythm. But generally we have this biological clock of getting up when the sun goes up, going to sleep when the sun goes down. Now, why is that relevant? Is because actually it does affect how well you sleep and how well you get into those deep sleeps. So something that's blown up in the last couple of years is the information provided around things like blue light, light intensity, and how that can impact your ability to get into the deep sleep, which is what we want to get in terms of maximizing muscle repair and growth, and also in terms of hormone regulation, things like that as well. Another huge part is temperature as well. Ballpark is around about 16 to 19 degrees centigrade. Fahrenheit, I'll pop that down here as well. Most of us approach sleep in what's called a monophasic approach, where we take one big chunk and we sleep for that one big chunk. Then we get up and we do our day, sleep for one big chunk and go again. You can start to break this up into polyphasic and things where some people sleep for 1.5 hour slots throughout a 24 hours and actually get their sleep that way. We don't want to worry too much about monophasic, polyphasic. At this point, that's something that can be tweaked around your lifestyle at a later date. First off, we need to be getting the sleep and the quality of sleep before we even start worrying about where we're getting it. So now we've got a little understanding of how we're actually approaching sleep. We're always aiming for that deep sleep because that's where we're going to get the hormone regulation, we're going to get our muscle repair, our muscle growth. That's what we're aiming for in terms of maximizing our recovery, which is what sleep is huge for. If you could get the effects of 9 hours of sleep as a drug, it would be banned in every single sport. Just to put that into a benchmark, the sleep comes so far down the list of priorities so often, where it's one of your biggest contributors to moving the needle in terms of your performance. Just to highlight this, I'm gonna butcher this, but off the top of my head, there was a study done in America where they had college students who were healthy playing in sports with no diagnosed health issues. They sleep deprived them, so I think it was, this is where I said don't quote me, I think it was 4 hours of sleep they gave them for 5 days in a row, and by the end of those 5 days where they were only allowed 4 hours of sleep, they were all diagnosed as pre-diabetic. Shockingly as well, let them sleep again afterwards and that all goes away. So the impact that your sleep has on your body is absolutely huge. Another thing as well is that you look at the difference between both children and adults. That sleep deprivation is hugely linked to your risk of obesity as well. There is maybe a degree of correlation, not necessarily being causation with that. By what I mean is that people that tend to sleep less may have other lifestyle habits that also then lead to them being obese as well. So you can't take it all as a fixed dead certain that sleep deprivation makes you fat, but certainly increases your risk of getting fat. Also as well, your sleep deprivation does have an impact on your leptin and ghrelin, which are your hormones for hunger and satiety. So we've all had it where you have those days, this is on a more anecdotal note, we've all had it on those days where you didn't sleep very well last night, so you have that little extra sugar pick-me-up in the afternoon just to keep you going all the way through the day. If you'd slept a little better, maybe that you don't have that, and guess what, you're looking a little leaner in terms of your calorie intake by the end of the day. I also want to point out that it's one of those things that people always say it's a bit silly to spend, 80 quid on a pillow or something like that. But you think about the amount of time you spend on that pillow, and actually it becomes a pretty worthwhile investment. Also, the impact that sleep has on your performance of your job, your health, down the gym, everything like that, actually becomes a very straightforward investment in terms of justifying that cost expenditure. As long as you are paying for quality and not just paying for a gold-plated pillowcase, because that ain't going to help anyone much. The main thing I want you to take away from this is to prioritise your sleep a little bit more. Try and establish some routines, some habits that are going to be built around limiting the distractions throughout the night. So keeping your light intensity down, keeping the artificial light away, so that we're allowing ourselves to stay in those deep sleep cycles for longer without getting interrupted. Also making sure that we are having those full sets of cycles, thinking about sleep in cycles rather than thinking about it in hours as such. Trying to establish a routine for going to bed at the same time is a huge help in terms of making that happen. If you've got a set time where you're like, right, I'm in bed by this time every night, it makes it a lot easier to try and establish the length of time you'll be asleep for. Some people that won't work for in terms of your lifestyle, so you've got to work with what you're capable of doing. When I mentioned the light intensity before, it should be worth mentioning as well that there's a difference between you going to bed between the hours of 10 and 6 than there is between 12 and 8, because it's going to be light by 8 o'clock most of the time. Depends where you are in the world, which again comes back to that light intensity affecting your quality of sleep as well. So it's picking the times where it's going to be darkest, as dark as possible, get some good quality sleep throughout there, and you'll be laughing by the end of it. If you do get on top of your sleep and it's something you do start to optimize more and more and more, you're going to start maximizing on a potential that you didn't even know you had. We're going to be moving away from the fundamentals series now. If there is something else that you want me to cover in terms of hitting the basics, let me know and I can cover that at a later date. Make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, hit the little bell to get notified when the new videos come live, because we will be working on a more topic by topic basis now to try and optimize the amount of information I can provide to you guys. Okay, drop a like down below if you did enjoy the video, and I'll see you in the next one.